again. My name is Markus. I'm also working at Vision, and today I'm your moderator for the panel discussion on digital sovereignty, perspectives from the ecosystem. So actually on my card I have a warm-up question, which I don't think makes any sense. Quick show of hands, how many of you have used the term digital sovereignty in the last 6 months? So I think it was everyone, yeah. So you're among friends. So digital sovereignty is everywhere right now. Politicians talk about it. I mean, we've heard the talks this morning. So basically everybody. I always remember like one story 1 year ago, roughly, watching the German news show Tagesschau, prime time, 8 p.m. And the main topic at that news show was digital sovereignty and open source. And I was like, okay, we're talking about this in this industry since like decades, and then it finally made it to prime time. So something has clearly shifted. So to me, it's not really a new topic. I mean, these challenges were always there. We just kind of, it seems like we found a new term for it. So yeah, and it's not about talk. I mean, you've heard probably the story about the International Criminal Court losing access because Microsoft suspended their account. So that's a real thing that happened in real life. And the French government deciding to go full on open source. And of course, Schleswig-Holstein, we heard them already a couple of times. They are migrating or have migrated 30,000 desktops from M365 to LibreOffice. And yeah, I mean, David told us this morning, David Stotz, about Europe's cloud future should look distributed. I kind of agreed to that. So running after the US hyperscaler is probably not the best idea. And Tobias convinced us that serverless teach us something about digital sovereignty. So yeah, for a tech audience like us, it raises a couple of questions. I mean, I think you had it as well, Tobias. I'm already running open source, so haven't I solved the problem? Or, I don't know, is digital sovereignty even the right term? So let's find out today. Let me introduce the panel. I'll also take a seat now. So to my left, we have Lena Fuhrimann. Lena is a software engineer and founder of Bespinian. She's also an esteemed speaker, actually. So if you go to conferences like this, you will always see her most of the times. And she's helping organizations transform their IT landscape using or adopting cloud-native technology. She will bring in the perspective of an implementation partner and how customers balance innovation, agility, and control. Then we have my colleague Tobias Brunner, aka Tobu, as I introduced you already before. He's a partner at Vision and also the product manager of Savala. And he brings in the perspective of an operation or managed service provider running digital sovereignty at 3 a.m. in the morning, as you said before. So welcome to you as well. Then we have Simon Reber. He's a senior solution architect at Red Hat. Probably you've heard of Red Hat, one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, open source software vendor in the world. He will bring in the perspective of what makes or how open source actually contributes to flexibility, interoperability, and last but not least, sovereignty. Then we have David Sommer. He holds a PhD of ETH, and he joins us today from the Digitale Gesellschaft. Digitale Gesellschaft is fighting for or defending fundamental digital rights and democratic digital rights. He also leads two work groups there, AI and digital sovereignty, so I think you're in the right place. In his normal life, he's also a cybersecurity expert in the industry, and he also teaches at FHNW. He will bring in the perspective that digital sovereignty is not only about technology, but also about civil rights and society, last but not least. Then we have Bachmann. He's lead architect cloud and currently the head of, I have to read that, the head of cloud and IT ad interim at Switch. Welcome, Roman. You probably know Switch as well. Switch operates digital infrastructure in Switzerland for universities, research institutions, and digital ecosystems. He will bring in the perspective of a cloud service provider. So let's start quickly. What would you say? How would you, all of you, define the term digital sovereignty, and what does it mean to you, Lena?
To keep it short, is the mic work?
Hey.
To keep it short, for me it means the power to take your own decision, but also the responsibility to act on them.
So I would say digital sovereignty is to be strategically autonomous so that you can decide where your data is, who has access to your data, and you can easily switch your data to a different provider if you want.
For me and Red Hat, it's having control over operations, over your data, flexibility to move from one infrastructure provider to the other, or on top of infrastructure provider. And also important, knowing your dependencies, where you have dependencies in place, what that means, and actually how you can resolve those if you have challenges with the vendor, with the provider of these dependencies.
My answer is a little bit longer. Because at Digitale Gesellschaft we speak with a lot of different stakeholders, and we have experienced that the term digital sovereignty is very fuzzy. And with the many talks with many people, different stakeholders I had, my impression is actually that we need to look at several dimensions in this for this term. And I think I will explain two I see quickly. The first one is government versus individual. So is the government sovereign? For example, what the Bundesrat intends in Switzerland, sovereignty there is more in terms of humanitarian law. What's your relationship as a state to another state? And this also means maybe you need companies that provide you certain services, but there is no thinking about open source or how the infrastructure looks or so. And on the other side, we have the individual one, where can you as an individual person actually do what you want in your basement? And there you're already quite close to the open source idea. And companies are somewhere in between, but more on the individual side, interestingly, than on the government side. Because government needs to rely on companies. So that's the first dimension. The second is legal versus technical. With many municipalities and cantons that actually discuss this topic, digital sovereignty, they say we are digital sovereign because we have legal contracts with, pick your favorite international tech company, that guarantees us that they do not access the data. I'm in cybersecurity. For me, it's very clear. It's likely not true. Snowden. So this is the second dimension there. When we speak about software. And then when I went to Europe, I actually experienced it's much wider than this. So Europe thinks about the whole stack, from rare earth over chip fabrication, board fabrication, where is it run, where does the data lie, and AI of course, the full stack. So and when I have this kind of discussion, sorry for my very long answer, I usually say exactly this what I said now and ask the person, where do you see yourself in this huge field? And then the definition is already clear and we can actually discuss it. I think today we are discussing about the software part, so a very small part of this full chain of digital sovereignty. And last sentence, for the digital society Switzerland, Digitale Gesellschaft, in the position paper states, very close to his statement with Red Hat, that you need the ability to develop and operate components as you like and that you have control over your data. And ability does not mean it has to be like this. It only means if there is a change in need, that you are able to do this.
Thanks, David. Roman? That was a long last sentence.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
My answer is rather short, but similar to what we've already heard. So for me, I think it boils down to two parts. The first one is about the control. So are we in control? Can we decide where things are being run or data is being processed? And the second one is about options. So the more options we have, the more different approaches we can choose from. That makes us then or puts us in a position where we can choose. And I think these two parts are really, really important to me. And that's the short answer.
Thanks, Roman. You can just keep your microphone. I can switch the questions around. Switch is owned by its universities, right? So you could say you're digital sovereign by design.
Yes. And I think maybe a little bit of context. So I think a lot of people know Switch in Switzerland. So we usually claim that we were the ones that brought the internet to Switzerland. We were founded 39 years ago already. So you could say this idea of this sovereignty and that stuff is already almost 40 years old. And then I think to give some context to the structure, yes, that's exactly the case. So we have we are a foundation. We are a non-profit foundation. We have a foundation council with 40 seats and represented then by different cantons, by universities, by research institutes, by the ETH domain, by libraries, among others. So quite well distributed or founded by the different stakeholders, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. And where do you currently see like the most interesting momentum or developments in the space of digital sovereignty?
I would say again to my previous definition, this thing about control and options. When I talk about control, that is really then also the governance part, or how we can steer and how we can influence the development. So at Switch, we also provide our own Switch cloud service, infrastructure services. And in that sense, our community members, how we call our owners, so to speak, we invite them to provide us feedback on the roadmaps, on the prioritization. They can also have their veto. So there's a lot of impact and influence they can take on the roadmap and the road or the direction we're developing Switch Cloud for. So that is the control part, and I see more and more traction to that, also for research institutes, especially in Switzerland. And as soon as they are connected to European research projects, even more. So also there we talk about interconnectivity, open source projects that work together, and so on and so on. And the second part about the options, I would say, there we are in a place, again, as a foundation. We are non-profit. That means we don't have the multi-billion budget to have specialists and experts for each and every service. And I think that is exactly the sweet spot where we position ourselves, where we then bundle the expertise in the community with partners. We saw it with Servala just recently, where we can have a platform where we bring in the expertise, so that not only Switch needs to build up all of that knowledge, but that we collaborate with others and have this one offer then to the community or to our users.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you hand the microphone to Lena, please? I'm sorry, we only have one. I don't know. Lena, you've helped a lot of companies or organizations modernize their applications. In your experience, in your projects, where does digital sovereignty normally pop up? Like, is it from the beginning, or is it an afterthought, or somewhere in between, or no topic at all?
So we usually try to make it a topic from the very beginning, and there it's usually three main reasons, I would say, where it comes up. The first one is if there is... Hello? Is it working?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll just try without.
Yeah, it's okay. Thanks.
So it's usually three main reasons why it comes up. The first one is if you have some sort of regulatory constraints that will force you to move into a digitally sovereign direction, like if you have data privacy concerns, or if you have regulatory prescriptions that tell you that you need to move in a certain way. And the second one is usually when you want to maintain your independence or when you want to prevent lock-in, which is kind of the opposite of that. As I said in the beginning, in the first question, when you want to take your own decisions, then this is a topic that can come up. And the third one is if there are maybe potential cost savings or something like that. So those are, I would say, the three main reasons that concern our customers when this topic of digital sovereignty comes up. And we try to address these very early on because obviously those are pretty important factors that lead to architectural decisions that you will take, right? That your decision, that your team will take. But I think as David put it very well, it's always a spectrum, right? It's not a decision, yes, we are digitally sovereign, or no, we aren't. It's a spectrum, and there are many layers to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Could you hand it over to Tobru? Tobias, as I said before, you're making digital sovereignty operational in production at 3 a.m. in the morning. Where do you see yourself personally, or what role do you see yourself playing in that space, and also as Vision?
Vision started buying servers 12 years ago to put it onto our own data center, because the idea was that we are independent from others. But soon after that, we figured out that there are others doing that as well, better than we do. So we put on our services on top of it. So we can rely on many different cloud providers to put our managed services on. And I think this choice is the main reason I see that we can provide digital sovereign managed services. So we are not bound to one of the hyperscalers. And we built the technology around that. So we built technology that we are independent. This is, I think, the best choice we ever made back then to be that independent. And yeah, I mean, getting up at night at 3 a.m. is not so very digital sovereign, but at least we can build services independent of where it runs.
Thank you. You can hand over to Simon. Simon, Red Hat's position is that open source is the foundation of sovereignty. What, in your opinion, what would have to happen that this gets more widely adopted, or that digital sovereignty actually works or is working?
I think a lot already happened, thanks to politics, I would say. To be frank, right? We have been talking about this for years, and thanks to certain changes that happened, people start to listen and understand what we're talking about, which is nice. What would need to happen to really have it work? I generally think the first important thing, looking especially in Switzerland and also abroad, is that we have a clear understanding of what digital sovereignty means. We had it before, right? The definition, also Pascal mentioned it. There are things that we can influence and there are things we can't influence, right? I still doubt that we will build our own laptops or servers in Switzerland. I can
Probably
be wrong, but let's see.
We don't know.
So we need to clearly distinct, okay, where can we do stuff and where we can't, right? So it goes back to the dependencies, so know your dependencies. And then to make it really work is that we have implementations that rely on open standards, open communities, that everybody is contributing and therefore allowing the flexibility that is needed. So that I can use a technology today and move to another technology transparently without investing millions or even billions of Swiss francs and resources to make it happen. It just should be possible to move from one to the other. And if we have that, I think we are in a really good position to be in a sovereign state.
Thanks. Thank you. Can hand over to David. David, you're here to remind us that it's also about democratic rights and political will, right? So where do you see the biggest challenges or tensions right now around this topic?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, and Pascal in the talk before already mentioned a lot of things. I'm trying not to repeat it. I think the the main problem that we have, that everybody expects that these solutions exist and that they can buy it, and they don't exist. So you go with another vendor, and these solutions will be never built because there is no investment in these solutions. This is the deadlock we are at the moment. This is a chicken egg problem, which we all are here trying to solve, and I look very positively towards that. Also, the state who could spearhead this kind of development by investing money also is in the same problem. Currently, most institutions try just to buy solutions that are already ready, and then you land at the established provider. And of course, you have a lot of lobbying and sovereignty washing, also in Europe, from the established providers, which is a very strong force. And the reasons for that, I mean, why is there no change? Who of you knows the phrase, "You never got fired for buying Microsoft"?
Or IBM?
Yeah, that would be the joke, exactly. Yeah, the joke was actually, earlier it was IBM, and things are shifting, so things can change. But this is a very strong, this individual risk minimization within organizations, I think, is one of the main reason that there is a very little change. And also, I now shorten a lot of my answer. What we are looking here is also a play of power. So this is not only about economy, not only about products, it's about geopolitical power. And there are states that invest a lot of money that certain things stay as they are. For example, the US DARPA program is a very great help in creating a lot of these technological superiorities that the US has at the moment, for example, over Europe. And when we are speaking about changes towards digital sovereignty, we are also speaking about changing these structures of power. And that's historically seen quite a big challenge. And if it breaks, it will break harshly.
Thanks. I know we're already quite late. Let's run a couple of quick questions to all of you. We've heard of Schwarz IT Gruppe a couple of times this morning. They invested 11 billion euros in a data center in Germany. Compare that to what I've read, like $600 billion, which US hyperscalers invest in cloud and AI data centers. Don't we also have a money problem?
Maybe I can start. I think it's what you just previously said. In some cases, I think the money is there. The question is just how is it allocated, and what is the timeline we're looking into. So if you invest now and you plan to replace one or the other component in a couple of years, then the time is right. And if you just expect that you now invest a couple of I don't know what and expect it next year to be there already, I think that would be a challenge. But yeah.
Anyone else? Lena?
But I think there's also a misconception there, or maybe we create wrong expectations, because many people still think, they hear, oh, it's open source, and they think, oh yeah, open source is free, so we're going to save money, we're going to save on licenses and stuff like that. And a couple of months ago, when I at an event asked government's representatives, are you also willing to put in some money into those open source projects? There were question marks, right? And I think that's a big danger, because as you said, David, it's a power play, and power is sadly where the money lies. And if we are not willing to put in the money to make these open source projects strong, then I think we still have a big problem, because just using open source will not remove the necessity for putting in money.
That's true. One more question. I mean, we've heard it before. Schleswig-Holstein is saving 15 million euros a year on license costs just for Microsoft, what they paid before. Why is not everybody doing that?
It's a nice statement, and I'm not sure this is completely accurate that they are saving 15 million in licensing fees. Maybe they are not spending it with Microsoft, but they are spending it otherwise, as Lena just mentioned, right? It's still an investment that you need to take and they are maybe spending the amount of money with developers developing software in LibreOffice, in OpenExchange and whatnot. So again, it's not about saving money. 9 million, okay, so it's a bit of savings. Okay, so they're still spending lots of money, so the savings is much smaller. It's just spending otherwise, using the money differently. So there we have to be careful, right? It still is a cost associated with it. Open source, while the code is free to use, it's not free in operations and in development, right? Even if you do it as a hobby, at some point you may want to get some money at some point, because you also need to feed your cat or get your car up and running and these kind of things. So there it's a careful conversation that you need to take, right? It's shifting the budget to another area.
I agree.
I fully agree, and I would like to add, the more people are doing this, the cheaper it becomes in average for each individual player, especially if you make it open source and share the costs. So I think there is a lot of potential there, especially when looking at Servada.
Yep. Thanks. As I'm luckily also the track lead, I say we continue for a couple of more minutes. If that's okay. Just looking at Tim. One more question. We're all part of this ecosystem. What needs to happen that we become the default choice?
Yeah, we have to build the Wurstfabrik. No, I think, as mentioned in my talk before, no one can do it alone. So we have to find together and build it together. And that's why I'm here today. That's why we are here today, to join forces, to talk to each other and find a way to build it together. So that's my answer to that.
Thanks. Simon?
What needs to happen? It's related to software, right? So I think we are already there. If you look what software consists of, it's mostly open source software. Whatever business application you're using, they have dependencies from open source in there, so it's there. I think the key is that people are doing open source the right way, just consuming and not giving back and actually making proprietary software out of it. It's helping them, but it's not helping everyone else, as you mentioned, right? So it's really contributing back and living actually the open source mantra. That's the way of doing it. And if we are there and everybody's contributing back all their software and everything that they are doing, I think we have it.
Thanks.
Or we're close to it. The other one is a strong statement.
And maybe also a very short answer to that. I think Tobias, you said talk is cheap. So maybe next year we can have 2 or 3 demo success stories, how it worked out, and really show that it does work and reap the benefits from that.
That's actually really great, because that would have been my last question. What would have need to happen if we meet again here in 5 years, same people, same place, that it could say we actually made progress?
For me, it's really gathering the experience.
The Swiss laptop, for example, a Swiss-built laptop.
Probably not. I think it's exactly what you say. Decide on what are the parts that we want to control ourselves, and be sure about that, and gather the experience and collect feedback and try it out. And I think over time, usually the things that work out well, they will continue to be adopted. So that would be my plan.
I agree.
I fully believe in open source. I think in the long run, this is the only thing that makes sense, and that we build our infrastructure in such an open way. And when we meet in 5 years again here, I think the biggest question that we need to ask ourselves, were we successful in closing the gap between technology and the code and the businesses? And if we manage to close this gap, we can make this successful. If we don't, we have a lot of code that's used without contributing to the system, as it's unfortunately quite the norm today.
Thanks.
When I sit here again, hopefully in 5 years, the success I want to see is that we have an European Airbus-style built hyperscaler, which is seen as an alternative to the big ones, but built in the European way as a cooperation between many different parties.
Thank you.
For me, it's the public perception that needs to change of open source and of these projects, because as I said before, currently we still have a lot of perception that open source is for nerds, that open source is free, as in there is no money investment involved with it, that open source is not mature, that I don't have anybody who's gonna, be blamed if things go wrong. And I think we need to change that perception, and what we can do is just to be fan people for it, and what big corporations and also government entities can do is to be the spearhead, to make a good example that stuff like that can actually be used in a mature setup and can actually, it actually works. It can replace proprietary stuff.
Thanks. Some audience questions, if you have. No, Thomas says no. Okay, sorry. Thank you very much. that was a hard cut.